much. It's a pleasure to be here this year again, after I think it's going to be like my 12th South Summit, so I'm very excited to be here again today with this fantastic topic and this incredible group of speakers. So today we're going to talk about dual technologies, in particular the opportunity that both for innovation and for putting products into market has this in particular with healthcare and defense. And so we're going to start with Jackie. Can you tell us a little bit about your role at Plug and Play, and also how you've started actually investing in companies by design with this dual capacity, and how do you see the trends and the opportunities for investment and also in the ecosystem? More in the side of the US, since you come from the US, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Europe.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A pleasure, everybody. Jackie Hernandez, SVP Global Partnerships. I am in Plug and Play. Started Plug and Play with Said in 2006. And from there on, we have done like a ton of investments, more than 250 per year. And our active portfolio of 2,500 startups with 35 unicorns, and so 4 of them are in health. So we source startups because we want to invest. We're the most active investor in the United States, top 5 in early stage. And we're looking for technologies, usually technologies on the civil side. And we don't look for things on defense. And so by default, by nature, we have to look for those technologies that are going to help our partners. We work with more than 500 corporations globally, and these corporations come to solve problems or to discover new revenue streams who they can partner with startups. And so the objective is to really identify those solutions and help them. Now, if these technologies can have an application into the defense space, obviously we're going to do it. But because we do cross-pollination, we are active in 25 different verticals, industry verticals. So for us, it's very easy to identify solutions in one particular area. And then if the Department of Defense, which we work with, ask for a particular solution, then we tell you, hey, you should check this. Perhaps Pfizer is already using it with success. Yes. And so then we can make the recommendation.
Positioned to then transfer that
because
also
of the ecosystem,
into
exactly.
The defense, because of your experience and in building startups from the really the start, very early stage, all the way to
commercialization, which is the focus of our programs.
Fantastic. We're going to move on to Antonio from Ibatech. He represents a very important part of the European and really world ecosystem, which is this small and medium enterprise. Tell us a little bit about your experience in the technology and defense and your role within that, and how do you see that panning out also in Europe?
First of all, thank you for your invitation today. Well, I'm representing Ibatech. Ibatech is a Spanish SME based in Madrid with 20 people of experts regarding to as an engineering firm with a deep expertise developing turnkey solutions related to the chemical, biological, and radiological threats management. So at the end, as you can imagine, it's a very complex and uncertainty scenario in order to provide turnkey solutions for that to main end users in terms of decision-making for this kind of threats, as Spanish Ministry of Defense, Spanish Army, as well as other prime companies in defense sector. And as you can imagine, the management of this risk is a dual-use approach in every sense. We can provide all solutions to the military domain and also for the public domain. So, so my role is in Ibatech. I am the R&D director. So at the end in Ibatech, we consider the R&D as a main tier 1 issue in the company strategy.
Fantastic. And we were going to move on to Amaya. She's representing venture capital funds in Spain, in particular in the area of healthcare. Can you tell us a little bit about what's your investment thesis, and how do you select these startups? And now in terms of dual use, how are you seeing that between your different funds? You have a very important tech transfer fund, and you have been doing this for a long time. So what are your key takeaways?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Clara, for the invitation. I'd like to explain very briefly what we do in Clave. We've been doing tech transfer for about 20 years, and we like to call ourselves the bridge between universities and research centers and the market. So we work really close to those scientists that are working and developing new technologies, and we try to help them to bring that technology into the market and transfer it and make it become a solution that can be useful for different sectors. At the moment, we have 7 vehicles, but only 2 of them are currently looking for new investments. One of them is close to the one group, which is Mondragon Group. I don't know if it's a big industrial group in the north of Spain. And here we try to focus on finding some innovation that can be applied into the industry. And some of the companies that we find there are really close to defense. And on the other hand, we have another fund, which is a 50 million fund, early stage. We invest in pre-seed and seed. Sometimes we work even as a venture builder with some of the companies. And there we try to find innovation, but really close to the health space. And here we've discovered that some of the technologies that are applied mainly for health can also have an application on defense. And we believe that this is a huge opportunity for the companies we're investing, because it means that that interest of big funds in Europe and outside Europe are trying to find those technologies, and it can mean for them a new enter of funds, and it can mean also like a space for validation that is going to be sometimes faster than usually the health space is. So we believe it's a good opportunity for the companies we're investing in.
Fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about also the challenges that you find during with these dual technologies, such as regulation, such as, well, the long cycles. How are you dealing with these challenges in your experience? Also from the point of view of the US, what are the opportunities for Spanish companies that have good technologies, good science, that are interested in getting into the US market?
I think that, I mean, again, by default, we look for solutions that can be applicable to any particular vertical, any other sector. In this case, it could be useful for pharmaceutical companies, for hospital systems, even for insurance companies that do life and health, and other industry providers like robotics or any kind of devices. And so for us, it's not about doing more due diligence, it's about the risking. And the risking is about checking if this technology is applicable for something else. If the founders, especially startup companies in Europe and here in Spain, have not thought in the roadmap how they are going to put different industry verticals on top of the technology, then that is a problem for us. That's a red flag. So in our case, what we're looking is for those technologies and the roadmap and the founders that are thinking of the long cycles and the regulation. In the United States, there's a lot of capital, especially for defense. The budget for the United States is $594 billion of defense, which is almost twice as much as the whole European NATO. Defense budget. And out of that, 194 billion are only for research. But the cycle is forever. You can die in the process. And so, like, seriously, if you're a startup, you're going to die in the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so what we're trying to do is, in the meantime, because we have the ecosystem with all these partners, then we facilitate introductions to the other industries while they can clear. And the second thing that happens in the United States, then they have, when they want something, they go for it, and because they have the resources. And in the US, technology comes first, and then regulation. In Europe, it's exactly the opposite. First regulation, and then technology. And so in the United States, fortunately, you can approach, instead of going directly as a tier 1 supplier to the Army, for example, then you can go as a tier 2 or tier 3, because there are vendors, for example, that can be incorporated either in Lockheed Martin or any of the big players that are suppliers to the Army. And so they pass all the stringent regulations in the market. And then if you are supplier to Lockheed, it's still complex, but fewer regulations than if you were to go straight to the Army. It's going to take you 5 years just to get clear.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Different cultures.
And once you're there, once you're in the US, you have an enormous amount of capital that can be available to you, and also an amount.
And it is not for defense. I mean, it is the United States has like 40, just Silicon Valley, where I come from, is 50% of all the risk capital of the United States. That's $42 billion deployed per quarter. And so it's easier to get funding from another industry than getting into the defense, per se.
And I think it's very also country agnostic. So if the technology is good, if the team is good, and they need that, and you are able to get there faster than anybody else, then
it's about speed.
You have an opportunity to be there.
It's about
speed and about knowing how to navigate.
That's why you need somebody that can help you penetrate the market, because if you go as a foreigner, it's going to be hard. It's really difficult to understand the culture of Silicon Valley, especially because you're competing against the best of the world. And it's not that you're not smart enough. It's just the language is different.
We have teams here in Spain or in Europe that have the best technologies and that have the best teams. So we can compete at that level. It's just a question of knowing how to get there. So, we will share your email after this panel. So tell us a little bit about your experience navigating also the regulatory process to get into defense and healthcare.
We must be reminded that a small company.
Because in Europe, you also have these public-private partnerships, and you have currently a lot of funding, European funding for defense and dual technology. So it's a good moment.
This is a key issue to be in mind in the strategy of the company. But regarding to the SMEs that would like to be involved in new opportunity that is appearing in the defense domain for dual-use applications, we are experiencing a change of paradigm little by little regarding to from the barrier between civil domain and military domain is disappearing. Okay, so many traditionally main technology developments were developed in the military domain, and then we moved to the civil domain. Okay, this traditional paradigm, but little by little this is changing. Many civil technologies are little by little approaching to the military domain. And it's a change of paradigm. So in this sense, we are facing many companies, many institutions, many research institutions that would like to be involved in defense, and they see some requirements, more requirements than the civil domain, in terms of security measures, for example. You need to carry out some security measures at the organization level in order to obtain confidential permits to manage some kind of sensitive information, for example. And even these security requirements are related to all the staff involved in the projects. So it's not only at organization level, it's considered at personal level.
And your suppliers too.
Absolutely.
At least in the US.
And it is another risk to be in mind regarding to the good management of the procurement. You cannot go to every place or to make a phone call to China, for example, to acquire some device. No, you cannot do this. Because the first question that every supplier would like to provide you is, okay, what is the end user? What is the end user? And in what country will we arrive this solution? This is the first two questions, okay? But of course, everyone would like to to establish an alliance with you and this kind of thing. But there is some requirements in terms of security that shall be accomplished. And even, of course, or regarding to regulation in terms of, you need to have a good financial management.
Yeah.
Okay, as SME, of course, it's obvious, but you must be in mind that your main client or end user will be a public entity. So at the end, a public entity is under the public procurement rules, and you need to be in mind this as part of the game, okay? It's not a bad or good issue. It's just another rule of the game. You need to know the rules of the game in order to play this match, okay? So that's it. So at the end, of course, you must be in mind that in terms of safety, security issues, as well as some additional certifications in terms of equipment that other civil domain sectors don't require. Okay, for example, for rugged equipment, in order to that can assume some crash and vibrations and something like that. Okay, but it's not the same technology in a laboratory environment that the same equipment in on-ground, okay, on field, because the uncertainties are bigger, of course. So you must be in mind this kind of thing. Of course, it requires additional resources. You need to prioritize your resources to go in a better way. So at the end, of course, you must be in mind that there is more requirements from the civil domain to the military domain. It's possible, okay, but you need to have a clear idea of the rules of the game. Okay?
Exactly. And Amaya, since you're very involved also with health startups and with investing in biotech and in health startups, there are also a number of regulations and regulatory processes that they need to follow, as well as IP, etc. Can you tell us a little bit about how you pick your investment decisions and how you help these startups, which sometimes are very early, in developing these skills? So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Well, so first of all, just to briefly on our thesis, we try to find companies that are very innovative, that are backed by scientists, so they have their origins either in research centers, universities, or they have scientists involved in the team. That is very important for us. And then we try to focus on medical devices, either for treatment or diagnosis. We also invest in biotech, and we also have a vertical for e-health. In those terms, we believe that what we try to find is technologies that can bring more capabilities to the sanitary system, that can make better the process of diagnosis, which I believe is really, really important. And as well, we try to make the decisions for the doctors a bit more objective with the technologies that we're applying. And I believe this is very similar that as defense is trying to find as well, because they need to make important decisions outside where they can access some specialists, for example. They need to be supported by artificial intelligence, for example, to make good decisions and also to diagnose. So I believe this is a key point for us in terms of finding new investments. And in terms of IP and regulatory, I think that something has changed, because earlier, if you had a good technology, that could be enough. But now you need to have that technology very well protected, because things are happening really fast. New technologies are appearing every day. Artificial intelligence is helping a lot in that process. So you don't need only to have a good technology, you need to have a technology that you can protect on the long term. So for that reason, it is very important for us that the IP is covered, and not only the IP that the company is currently holding, but what is the regulatory path for them, what are the new developments that are going to be, and how are they going to assess that regulatory path.
So this freedom to operate as well, no? If
Absolutely.
I'm going to be in the US, am I going to be sued the moment I step product there?
Absolutely, and in terms of due diligence, this is something that we look very, very deeply, because we don't want to make an investment mainly because the investments we made are in a really early phase. So we need to be ahead of what's going to happen, and we cannot invest in something that 2 years after is not going to be accessible, like can have access at the United States if it is their main market. So for us, it's a key point for
And
our
the United
investment.
States is usually the main market for all of us.
It is for everything.
That's just. Would you like to add something? to
It
that?
is, I mean, for us, the key topic is scalability.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have the capacity to scale? And we're looking for capital efficiency. So we invest mostly in software solutions. Nowadays, obviously, as you can imagine, software with artificial intelligence is going to require the hardware component just for computational requirements in AI. However, we're looking for those solutions that are going to be able to scale very, very quick in very large addressable markets. I mean, you're talking the United States, especially Silicon Valley investors, are extremely aggressive, so they will not go for niche markets. So if you're looking for an addressable market of $200 million, forget it, that's not their thing. I mean, you may find, obviously, an investor that is looking for those particular niche markets, but in general, as a rule of thumb, investors are looking to get as much return as possible, and so and they are shooting for unicorns. In our case, we're shooting for unicorns. I mean, we have 35, and so
Well,
You're good at that.
no. The last one we just had the fourth one in health in last day of April, and don't ask me for the name because I forgot the name because but it is
Congratulations.
But there are several of them that actually started in some of them in the military and the other one in vice versa.
Yes.
Because we did PCR testing, at-home testing, that was utilized also in the military with BISB Medical to do now all the diagnostics on the field, on the battlefield, for any exactly the threats, military, biological threats, and so.
Hey, it's part of our business.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yeah, so we can't finish a panel without talking a little bit about AI. So also it's applicable to dual technologies. Can you tell us a little bit the success cases or how you see this affecting this field as well? You mentioned it briefly.
And it is
right now.
about now prediction, because artificial intelligence is whether it is for health or whether it is for defense, it has been mostly reaction. I mean, you get it when you already present the symptoms or whatever, and now we're moving with artificial intelligence into a different domain. So this last unicorn and also Oaking, which is another unicorn that we have, for example, they are utilizing federated data to build the models that are going to do the precision medicine. And so in these cases, I mean, we're now identifying what are the patterns with artificial intelligence in order to be able to predict before it happens. There's one of your companies that it is doing pretty much the same, but now with this special modeling is important. Obviously, whatever is required, we have to take care of data, the source of data. And most of the times, you will have to use specific company data or your know-how data for the post-training of the models, which is going, by the way, to be less expensive than if you have to use the large language model. Not everybody needs a large language model, and so smaller models, which are very specific to your know-how, to your IP, etc., can be utilized with AI. So I think better times are coming. We still have to deal with the regulation, and of course, the biggest hurdle, if our host told us, is the fear of trust in artificial intelligence. So that's, I'm going to put the third one, fear, in his list.
Completely. I believe in AI, so I think it's the future.
Oh, it is great.
But for sure, there is risks associated. And I think we have really just one last comment before we end, and this is, how do you see the future panning out? What are the opportunities? And also, if you had to give, the two investors here, if you had to give some advice to the startups that are maybe in one of the two fields and want to get into dual technologies, what would you recommend them? What are the key things that you're looking for?
Should I?
Yes, we start.
So what we're looking for, I believe that AI is changing things, but we don't need everything to have AI. Like AI has to have a goal or an objective, and it needs to be used with purpose. So AI is key, but it needs to be used consciously in order to bring a better solution for whatever market you're doing. And I'd always suggest to have really clear the clinical need that you're solving, because for adoption and for market access, I think it's very, very important to be aware of who are you solving a problem, who are you helping to make their work a bit easier, a bit faster, and a bit cheaper, if possible. I believe that's a key point that companies should look at, because it's going to be way more easy to access the market, and the sooner they access the market, they're going to have some traction, and that is going to call for new investors. They're going to be able to grow, and that is something very, very important for any startup that is thinking to get into the health tech.
Yeah. So focus on the problem you're trying to solve, and then develop the best solution, and the money will find you, or the market will find you.
The money will come to you. We are always looking for new projects, so don't worry if your project is good and you have a good team and you have a clear roadmap to reach the goals that you have, the money will find you.
Speed.
Yeah.
Speed to market.
Yeah.
Speed to market. There's nothing else. Speed to market.
In this case, I would like to suggest to companies to make more visible in events like this one. Try to enhance your alliance with different organizations, kind of entity. For example, this is two marvelous examples of organizations of different kind of organizations beyond the traditional business company. Okay, so you need to enrich your ecosystem of alliance. Is key for the SMEs, okay, and especially for the startups. And in this sense, regarding AI, of course, we will start after the summer a project in this term regarding to how to pass from reactive decision making to proactive decision making regarding to severe threats. And half of the time of this conversation during the negotiation phase with the Commission, with the European Commission, half time is related to security issues, how to handle the information, how the data will be managed, who will be in charge of the data management. Even the technology, okay, the technology, they say, wait, it seems very promising technology. Okay, that's okay, but what is that security advisory board that you will include in the project management chart of the project? These kind of things is important for the end users. In addition, from my point of view, is important, of course, you must be on the wave of the trendy technologies, but you must to go beyond to the current technology. For example, in our case, we developed a decontamination technology for military electronics several years ago, but at this stage, the same technology in end solution and a product solution will be provided to a military hospital this year. It's a perfect example of dual-use application. We will provide this device in order that the medical electronics used in management of biological threats can be decontaminated in an efficient way. So, of course, our next step would like to go to the healthcare environment. It's another example.
Thank you very much. So, collaboration and also security, and there's a world of opportunities there. Yeah. Thank you very much, the speakers of today.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for your contribution.
My pleasure. Thank you.